I'm rule of thirdsing so hard right now. I was feeling a little bit nostalgic today, which is why this top 10 is about 10 fragrances I tried this year that I really liked. These aren't necessarily the all-time best fragrances that I tried this year, but they're standouts to me for a variety of reasons. If you haven't already seen my list where I talked about fragrances that I really wanted to try this year, check it out because there may be a few fragrances from that list in this list.
He needs some milk.
If you don't know me, I'm James from the channel J-ROYL. Welcome. New videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday about fragrances. Subscribe if you want to smell better. Number 10 on this list of new-ish fragrances that I tried, Blue Satin by MDCI. Now the reason that I'm excited about this fragrance is I expected it to be really bad. It's one of those fragrances that got slaughtered on Fragrantica, not because it smelled bad, but because it was another fragrance that was trying to capitalize on Aventus, the whole manly, musky, woody, fruity thing. And to be fair, there's a lot of fragrances that do that. You gotta be kidding me, bro. Got some lawnmower action happening, but hopefully you can't hear it. Luckily, I got to try the fragrance because a subscriber that I met up with gave me a sample of it, and when I tried it on, it smelled good. It smelled really nice. Part of me was surprised because it has like a 3.02 out of 5 on Fragrantica. But then another part of me wasn't surprised because the notes look great. The big standout for me on that fragrance is the use of watermelon.
Watermelon!
I think watermelon is such a cool fragrance note that never really gets used. In fact, when I was debating on whether or not I would ever make a fragrance, watermelon was one of the standout notes that I was thinking of using. So I was really pleased to see it showcased in this fragrance. Don't think I'll ever buy a bottle of it per se, but I was really pleased to get to try it. Number 9 kind of surprised me as well. Stronger With You Intensely by Armani. Now you'll see a bit of a trend here with really low Fragrantica scores, but decent fragrances. The Stronger With You Intense Flanker does what it's intended to do. It takes the original, it makes it a lot stronger. It's bizarre how strong it is because when I tried it on, it was kind of faint at first and I didn't really know what was going on. But then when I started to continue throughout my day and I was like, what's that waft of like sweet cinnamon toffee, sweetness? It was Stronger With You Intensely. This is a total club banger fragrance, and if I went clubbing, then I would maybe reach for it. Another one that I won't get a bottle of per se, but it's a lot better than people think it is. If you need a fragrance of that genre, if you need a new Versace Eros, if you need a new Armani Code Profumo, if you need a new Ultramall, you should check this one out. You should. Next up on the list, Fragrance 1, Office for Men. Now there's a principle called confirmation bias. If you're really looking for something specific, it'll probably manifest itself and you'll probably find it. Like if you go into a fragrance thinking it's going to be bad because you want it to be bad, then you'll smell it and think it's bad. But based on my brief wearings of Fragrance 1's Office for Men, I can't say it's a bad fragrance. Smelling the fragrance on its own, it's good. It's a combination of a few tried and true accords that work really well on a guy. The parfumé is pretty prolific, which is one thing. And secondly, the way that it was concocted, I mean, of course it would smell good. If you're taking a little bit of Prada L'Homme, a little bit of Dior Sauvage, and some other awesome men's fragrances, and then making a super office fragrance, how could it smell bad? Now, if you have qualms about how the fragrance came to be, or the person behind it, or the price, or maybe the lack of a cap, that's entirely different. But when I smell the fragrance inside, it's really good. And my girlfriend thinks so as well. I do plan on testing Office for Men against similarly priced fragrances, so you can look forward to that. Number 7 is Catalina Herrera's CH Insignia Men. This fragrance definitely caught me by surprise. When I first saw it at a duty-free at the airport, my first thought was, okay, it's a rebrand of CH Men, because we've seen that. There's the original red ribbon, and then there was that leathery silver cap, and then there was a gold cap, and even CH Men Central Park, which is a different fragrance, still has a lot of the CH Men qualities to it, just with a little more ginger, kind of a green quality to it. But when I picked up CH Insignia Men and applied it on me, blown away. A Western fragrance company making an Eastern style fragrance. oud, rose, patchouli. Oh, come on, lawnmower. I just saw a Chaos fragrance video and there was a lawnmower and you guys lost it in the comment section. Leave Dallas alone, man. Oud, rose, saffron, violet, patchouli. It's kind of like when Dolce & Gabbana started releasing the one special night fragrance flankers, the more Middle Eastern ones. I think CH Insignia Man is a really cool addition to the CH Men family, and it's something I could think about maybe getting one day. Next on this list we have Gucci Guilty Cologne. What a surprise. Gucci, you're doing some kind of interesting avant-garde things. Gucci Guilty Cologne is not Gucci Guilty plus citrus. The green bottle suggests that it is a green, fresh fragrance, and it is. It has a lovely juniper quality, cypress is in there, but it's so airy, watery, uplifting. Even though cypress is sometimes a note that is tied to older men's fragrances, this one feels very modern and updated. Because it's not relying on really thin notes, the robust green quality of it carries it through a day. And when I gave it a few wearings, it lasted a full day. That's about 7 hours, which is fantastic for a summer fragrance. It's fascinating to me how Gucci Guilty is a very generic, kind of basic fragrance, but a lot of its flankers are really, really interesting. Gucci Guilty Absolu is one that got a lot of hate, but it also has a bit of a cult following because of how different it is and dark and mysterious and brash. The epitome of a love-or-hate designer fragrance. But I love that they went for it. They didn't just rely on a basic fragrance. They want to do something different. And Gucci Guilty Cologne kind of is in that same genre, but it has a lot more mass appeal than Absolu. Gucci Guilty Cologne, man. I mean, if you like fresh green fragrances, if you would wear Acqua di Parma stuff, I think it's worth trying out. Don't blind buy it, but definitely investigate it. Next up we have Lucky by Dior. Lucky is one of the newer releases from the Privé collection, and it's a fragrance that got a lot of advertising in Scotland when I got to smell it for the first time. It's a very simple fragrance, basically 3 notes. It's pretty feminine, I suppose. It also has a slight earthy quality to it that gives it a touch of a masculine edge. A touch, just a touch. Okay. I feel like the fragrance really resonated with me because its primary note is Lily of the Valley, and that is a floral note that always kind of makes me happy. It's one of my mom's favorite fragrance notes, but it's also one of the more unique light floral notes. Lucky is a feminine-leaning unisex fragrance that I would probably like to have in my collection, but I wouldn't get a big bottle of it. I'd probably get one of the smaller ones. But I do feel that Lucky is a strong release. And if you like light floral fragrances, it is worthy of a sniff. And now we have one of my most anticipated fragrances of this year, Armani Code Absolu. Armani Code is one of my favorite all-time designer fragrances, just because it was one of my first ones. So I've made a point to try basically every flanker that's come out. After having the original for years and years, I eventually pivoted to Armani Code Ultimate, which I still think is really awesome, but very hard to find. And then when the weather gets a bit warmer, there's always Ice and Sport, whether I want to go a little bit minty or citrusy. The release of Armani Code Profumo was huge because it was advertised as being the original, but a lot stronger, which is partially true. It definitely has a lot of the original's character, but it just also has a truckload of tonka bean. It became known as a fantastic night out fragrance because of its crazy performance. It really will get you noticed, and I've gotten a lot of unsolicited compliments wearing it. But I feel that Armani Code Absolu is the more refined version of Profumo. There's nothing crazy different about it, but it just has this smooth quality to it that Profumo didn't necessarily have. Profumo is a great clubbing fragrance. Absolu is a great lounge fragrance. It's a little more upscale. Not mature, not dated, not old. Even young, fashionable dudes can go in a lounge. Because it doesn't have the crazy sharp tonka bean that Profumo had, it's a little more understated, even though it's still a 12+ hour performer based on my testing. And I'm so happy to say that it's a totally awesome fragrance. It's kind of rare that you see a heavily advertised cologne actually smell really good. And Armani Code Absolu is a total banger. If you have Profumo, maybe hold off on Absolu. They kind of do similar things and one can sort of pass for the other, but if you're just going for it now, just get Absolu. My third favorite fragrance that I tried this year is another Dior Privé, and it's the Cachemire. The Cachemire. Another one of the new releases from the Privé line. Man, if you look up the notes on Fragrantica, you're gonna be like, this is probably the coolest fragrance ever. And you wouldn't exactly be wrong. Phenomenal fragrance with quite a bit of depth, and it takes the tea genre in a different direction. It's not just tea, it's not just a chai, slightly spicy sweet tea. It has that floral quality to it and that slightly smoky woodiness to it that really makes it one of the most interesting releases in the Dior Privé collection. I sort of feel that I'm kind of forcing myself to love it just because I knew what kind of fragrance it was. And although it smells really, really awesome, it is a little bit light. The color of the liquid will give a hint that it's not a fragrance that will last you the entire day. At best, a quarter-day fragrance maybe. Something that you would apply liberally and then hope it just kind of lingers. Maybe mist your hair with it. I wish it was a little more substantial, and then it would be probably the perfect fragrance for me, but it's still good enough to get the third spot on this list. My second favorite fragrance that I tried recently, Bulgari Wood Neroli. Let me tell you guys, this fragrance blew me away. I didn't even know it was a thing at first, but then while I was at the airport duty free, oh, there's wood essence, let me spray that on. And then I looked more closely and it was Wood Neroli. Sadly, the store was sold out because I guess everyone else caught wind that it was there and just cleared the stock. But I was so happy I got to test it out because it's probably one of the better bergamot neroli fragrances I've ever tried. It's also a little bit woody too, so that does help with performance. It's not a neroli portofino that'll just disappear after 3 hours. This one stays with you. I almost classify it as an improved version of John Varvatos Artisan Pure, because even though that one is mandarin and petitgrain, it really just kind of feels like a citrus green fragrance or a bergamot neroli fragrance. They do very, very similar things, but while some people complain about Artisan Pure's performance, I really can't see people complaining about Wood Neroli's performance. I just kept smelling my hand all flight long, and it was really doing its thing. Thank goodness no one was sitting next to me because I might have gotten a few complaints. But their complaints would be, wow, why do you smell so much better than me, James? But my number one fragrance that I tried this year really surprised me. I saw it on the counter and I didn't realize that this was released. I felt privileged to be able to try it out. It's from a house that I really adore, and with notes like lavender, oak moss, patchouli, rosemary, and a really subtle, nice mintiness to it. This fragrance by Tom Ford has become my favorite aromatic fougere, and it's called Beau de Jour at number 1. Now, being an aromatic fougere, it's kind of limited to how it can smell. Aromatic, kind of green quality. Fougere with lavender, a little bit of a barbershop quality to it as well. But for what it is, it's probably one of the best I've smelled. I only had a first impression that I was smelling all day, so don't quote me on this, but it's a kick-ass fragrance. It lasted 14 hours on my skin, and I'm gonna try and pick it up, honestly. Now, if you wanna see some of the other fragrances that I'm really looking to try, you can check out the video of my most anticipated fragrances this year. It's a lot of fun, but this is just my opinion. Get your own.